Hello lovelies, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you an easy recipe. I have my classic Frank's sausage that you are seeing. That is what I'll be using for this easiest and tastiest jollof rice recipe. I normally do this recipe when I feel so tired and I don't want to be in the kitchen for a longer period of time. I just do this jollof recipe, which is super delicious, and it takes about an hour for it to be done. It doesn't take much time at all. So I decided to share this with you. I'm going to cube or cut them into cube the sausage, which I'll be using for this recipe. So as you can see, I took them from the wrapper and now I'm getting it ready to be chopped into cubes, and that is what I will use for the jollof recipe. This particular Frank's is made with chicken. They have some with chicken and pork, but I don't like pork, so I prefer the chicken, which is very tasty and juicy when you use it for your recipe. I really love it. So I always go for it. Or if you have any leftover protein, you can use that as well, and this jollof will be super delicious. So I am done cutting the sausage into a bowl. I had two packs that I'm using to work on this. I'll put all the measurements and the ingredients in the description box down below. So I'm chopping them into cubes and I'll put them in a bowl, and then I'll continue working on the rest of the ingredients. So this is the chopped sausage. Now I have my pot ready on fire that I'm going to add in some olive oil. That is what I'll be using for this recipe. You can use any oil of choice and you are good to go with that. So I'm allowing the oil to heat up, and then I'll pour in the sausage. So here I'm going to allow the sausage to fry nicely in the oil. I'll allow it to fry until it turns golden brown. And now it's ready for me to take it off the oil. So I have a plate that I'm taking out the fried sausage into. So now I'll be using the same oil that I used to fry the sausage for the stew. So I'm going to add in the chopped red onions into the oil, and I'll allow it to fry until it turns transparent. So I'll give it a nice gentle stir. And then to that, I will add in some curry powder to give it that fragrance and flavor. And then I will continue to stir it nicely. To that, I'll add in some tomato paste as well. I'll put all the ingredients in the description box down below. I'll give it a nice stir to make sure it is frying well, because it is bitter or sour, which I don't want my stew for the jollof rice to be sour. So I always make sure I stir it up nicely for it to fry, which I'm going to make it fry for about 6 to 8 minutes to make sure it is cooked well. So I am continuously stirring everything nicely to open it up, because it is thick and you know how paste is, so it can cook through and through well. That is why I'm taking the time to stir it nicely and opening it in a gentle way. To that, I'll cover it up. And look how it is looking now. I'll continuously stir it nicely. To that, I'm going to add my homemade tomato paste or puree. I have this video, so I'm going to put down the link so you can have a look at, if you haven't seen this video, how I made my homemade tomato paste or puree. So that is what I've added to the stew. It makes it easier and simpler to have your stew done in no time, because with this tomato paste, it has all the ingredients in there. I have my jalapenos, onions, garlic, everything is in there, so I don't need to add anything more to this stew. So everything looks intact over there right now. I'll continue to stir everything up together. To that, I'll be adding in some ground cloves, which is a spice going to make it more aromatic. And also I'm adding in some black pepper. And I will stir everything up nicely together. And I'll allow it to cook for about 3 minutes in the stew. So now I'll cover it up, and then I'll come back to it and add in some nutmeg, grounded nutmeg, to enhance the aroma and flavor as well. So I'll stir everything up nicely together. And then cover it up for about 2 minutes. Back to it. Look at how the stew is looking. It's looking all done. So what I'm doing now is to add in the fried sausage, chicken sausage. And around this time, you can even use this as your stew. If you don't want to add in your rice to make it jollof rice, you can have this stew with anything that you want, and it's going to be super tasty. I added in some salt, but I think it skipped on the video. I don't know what happened, but I have my salt in there. And also I'm adding in my jasmine rice, which has been washed under running water for it to turn transparent. And I've added it to the stew. I am stirring everything nicely for it to incorporate well with the stew, the rice to incorporate well with the stew. So that is what I'm working on to make sure the color becomes even. You can use any rice of choice. I love to use jasmine rice because I know how to use it well. I know it when I want it to be single grained without being mushy. So I love to use that a lot. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to allow the rice to toast for about 3 to 5 minutes. This way it helps the rice to come out single grain without sticking to each other. And then I'll cover it up. So coming back to the rice, I use a metal foil so that it can cook within the heat it has. And so I'm stirring it up after allowing it to toast to see how it's looking, and it's still looking good. So I'll make sure to stir the ones at the bottom up to prevent it from getting burnt. And I'm going to add in some water. Here you have to make sure you know how much water you're putting in the rice to prevent it from becoming mushy. When you put in too much rice, it might get the rice to be mushy, but I want the jollof rice to be single grained, comes out single grained and fluffy. So I am particular about how much water to add to the rice, and that is what I'm working on. So I put in some water first. I'm stirring everything up nicely to see if the water is enough for me. So that is how much I wanted the water. So I've covered it up again and back to it again after 5 minutes to stir it nicely once more to make sure if that's the texture I want. So I'm continuously stirring it together to make sure the ones at the bottom comes to the top. And then around this time, I'll lower the heat from medium to low so it will take its time to cook the rice nicely. You don't need a lot of heat around this time to prevent it from burning. So I'll cover it up again. And this is how our jollof rice is looking after being on fire for about 15 to 20 minutes. It's looking so beautiful, and I've added in some veggies That is my bell peppers that I had. You can add any veggies of choice you want. Here I have my bell peppers and I'm stirring everything up nicely for the juices of it to infuse into the rice to give it more flavor, and the taste is just going to be super. So this is how the jollof rice is looking. It is so easy, simple, and I promise you, you will love it. It's so tasty. I'll cover it up for about 3 minutes, and here you are. The jollof rice is all done. Look how fluffy the rice is looking, and the smell here is super amazing. When you try this recipe, you always want to do it. It doesn't matter the time, and it took me about almost an hour to get it all done. You can have this jollof rice done weeknights after work and you will be great. So now dinner is served already. I'm going to make sure everybody enjoys this recipe, and I know they will. So lovelies, thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned one or two in this recipe, and I hope you let me know how well you did. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to put it down in the comments below, and I'm ever ready to answer your questions. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.